Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through your sources to pull out the key stuff you need to know.
Makes you smart, fast.
Exactly. Today, we're looking at Bill Perkins's Die with Zero.
Right.
And it's not just another finance book about piling up cash. It's really about, well, flipping the script on how we think about living a full life.
Yeah. It asks, how do you use your money and your time to get the absolute most out of life? That's the core question you sent over with the book.
It is. How do you optimize for experiences, not just, the bank balance?
And Perkins lays out this framework that definitely challenges how most of us approach work, saving, spending, all of it.
Okay, let's dive in. His first big rule, maximize your positive life experiences. The story he uses to kick this off about Erin and her husband, John, that really stuck with me. Do you remember that one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Successful couple, young kids. Yeah. And then John gets this terrible cancer diagnosis. And what Erin did, she immediately shifted gears. Work became secondary. It was all about being there. Simple stuff.
Right.
Park visits, movie nights.
Yeah, the everyday things suddenly become everything.
Exactly. It's such a powerful lesson. You have to consciously stop and spend your time on what actually matters.
Don't
wait.
And that ties straight into Perkins' main idea. Life is the sum of your experiences.
Right. Not your net worth statement at the end.
It's about the richness of what you did. And he has this concept, being an honorary billionaire.
Yeah, it's a cool phrase. It means thinking and acting like you would if money wasn't the main thing stopping you from having amazing experiences.
So not actually needing billions.
No, not at all. It's about prioritizing and choosing those experiences that give you real, lasting joy. Spending intentionally on that.
It makes you think about that paradox he mentions, too. Even super rich people often don't spend all their money.
Right. Even philanthropists, like he mentions Bill Gates, sometimes struggle to, give it away fast enough.
Which is kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And it makes you wonder, if people focused on giving struggle with deploying huge sums, what about us? What good stuff are we missing out on by not spending?
And then there's the memory dividend. That's a fascinating idea.
It really is. It's not just about the fun you have doing the experience.
Right.
It's how that experience keeps giving back over time.
How does that work?
Well, you remember it, right? You share the stories. It shapes who you are. That trip from years ago, that amazing concert, they keep paying dividends in your mind.
So they gain value in a way.
Exactly. Through memory, through sharing.
I think a lot of us can probably see ourselves in his descriptions, either a Sue Spendy or a Joe Nose to the Grindstone. You're either saving so hard you forget to live or living it up maybe a bit too much for later.
Totally. And the book isn't saying be one or the other. It's about hitting that sweet spot.
Finding the balance.
Yeah. And Perkins admits figuring out exactly how much to earn versus spend at different times for maximum happiness.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's a complex optimization problem, really.
He even talks about using an app to help figure it out.
Which is very modern, yeah. And look, no app can predict everything life throws at you.
Of course not.
But it highlights the need to actually think about these trade-offs. Use the info you have. Consider different paths. Don't just drift.
So rule number 1 is really about being intentional. Identify what experiences matter to you and actively go after them.
That's the core of it. Proactive living, not just letting things happen financially or experientially.
Okay, that flows right into rule number 2. Invest in experiences early.
Yes.
And he tells that story about his old roommate, Jason Rufo. That was memorable.
Oh, yeah. Jason's story is great. He's in his early 20s, barely making any money as a screen clerk.
Right.
And he decides he has to do this 3-month backpacking trip in Europe. Has no money for it.
So what does he do?
Borrows it.
Yeah.
From a loan shark.
Wow, seriously. A loan shark. That's risky.
Extremely risky. But years later, looking back, Jason says that trip was priceless. Totally worth the gamble. The experiences, the lessons learned, couldn't put a price on it.
But Perkins isn't necessarily saying go find a loan shark, right? He contrasts Jason's impulse with the book's approach.
Exactly. Jason acted on gut instinct, that youthful wanderlust. The book's point is more about being deliberate, using reason and data to plan for investing in experiences early on, consciously making those choices.
It's that classic tension, isn't it? The ant working hard, saving, versus the grasshopper enjoying today.
Right. And Perkins is saying, find the harmony. It's not all work or all play. There's a time for both, like the proverb says. You need to manage that balance throughout life.
He introduces this idea of the fulfillment curve. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. Imagine plotting your life's enjoyment level year by year. Some years are naturally going to be higher points on the curve, richer experiences.
Okay.
The idea behind the fulfillment curve is that you can shape that curve. By consciously managing how you trade off work and play at different ages, you influence the overall shapes, the total fulfillment you get.
And that links back to the memory dividend again.
Absolutely. Because those experiences aren't just blips of fun. They generate memories. And those memories provide ongoing value.
So experiences are like an investment.
That's exactly Perkins' argument. They're an investment in your long-term well-being, just like stocks or bonds. He compares it to, say, a parent paying for college that's investing in human capital.
Or teaching your kid to swim.
Right. A non-financial investment, but with lifelong payoff. These memories literally become part of your identity.
He makes a good point about photo albums.
Yeah. Think about it. If there's a fire, what do people grab? Often it's the photos, the physical links to those past experiences. We instinctively know how valuable those memories are.
So that week-long vacation isn't just the 7 days off.
No, it's the planning, the anticipation, the week itself, and then all the years afterwards of remembering it, telling stories about it, feeling good when you think back. That's the memory dividend kicking in.
He even compares return on equity from finance to this return on experience.
Which is a key insight. Why do we earn money in the first place? At its root, it's to enable experiences. Learning something new, traveling, quality time with people. Money is the facilitator.
And those experiences give their own return.
A return measured in life satisfaction, powered by that memory dividend.
He uses the Latu factor, too. That's familiar.
Right, just as an example of how small, maybe unconscious spending adds up.
Yeah.
That money could potentially fund something much more memorable, right?
Yeah.
It's not about never buying coffee.
Yeah, it's about awareness.
Exactly.
Right.
Are you trading away a potential big memories for small, forgotten expenditures? Just something to consider.
And then the flip side, the cautionary tale, John Arnold, the hedge fund guy.
Yeah, Arnold's story is powerful. Immensely successful trader, made a fortune.
But kept working, kept chasing more.
Right. He kept moving the goalposts. He got caught in the addictive habit, as Perkins calls it, of just making money, long after it stopped significantly changing his quality of life. He wasn't using the wealth he had to maximize experiences.
And Perkins is pretty blunt about dying with lots of unspent money. He calls it a waste of life energy.
He does. Think about it. The hours you worked to earn that money, that's your finite life energy. If the money isn't ultimately used for something valuable experiences, helping others energy, then those hours were, in a way, wasted.
Whether it's $1 million left over or 50,000.
It represents missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Experiences you could have had but didn't.
He drives this home with that case study, Elizabeth.
Right. Elizabeth looked like the model saver. Super frugal, always putting money away.
Responsible.
Seemed responsible. But the projections showed she was on track to die with, like $130,000 left over.
Which sounds okay, maybe.
But Perkins frames it as, that's thousands of hours she spent working, essentially for nothing. Hours she could have spent living, having experiences she valued, but instead she just kept accumulating money she'd never use.
Now, he does grant that some people genuinely love their work.
Absolutely. And that's great, he says. If work brings you fulfillment, fantastic. But even then, if you earn money from that work you love and still don't spend it on experiences you value, it's still a missed opportunity. He uses that video game metaphor, earning an extra life, but never using it.
Ah, right. The potential is wasted regardless of how you earned it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're investing early, maximizing experiences. But inevitably, the question comes up, what about the kids? People worry about leaving an inheritance.
It's probably the #1 question people have with this philosophy.
Right.
And Perkins tackles it head on.
What's his take?
Well, first he points to data. Get this. Median net worth in the U.S. actually keeps rising until people are in their mid-70s.
Really? So people are still accumulating wealth deep into retirement?
Yeah. It suggests many are saving well past the point where they can really enjoy that money to the fullest.
And there was other research supporting that, right, from the Employee Benefit Research Institute?
Correct. That study showed retirees across the board spend down their assets incredibly slowly. A lot of them actually increase their assets after they stop working.
Wow. So the common fear of running out of money might be overblown for many.
It seems that way. People are holding on to assets they likely won't spend. Perkins argues this is often driven by fear, but also by not understanding how spending naturally changes.
He talks about the go-go, slow-go, and no-go years of retirement.
Exactly. Early retirement, the go-go years, that's when you're typically healthiest, most energetic, doing the big trips, the active stuff.
Makes sense.
Then you transition to slow-go, maybe shorter trips, less strenuous activities, and eventually no-go, where health limitations really curtail spending on big experiences.
And data backs this up. Spending declines.
Yeah, Bureau of Labor Statistics, J.P. Morgan. They show spending generally trends down with age, even when you factor in healthcare costs potentially rising.
Healthcare costs. That's the big fear driving the oversaving, isn't it?
It's a huge factor. People worry about catastrophic end-of-life medical bills.
Which is a valid concern.
It is, but Perkins uses this funny analogy. He calls it saving for alien robot invasion insurance. His point is, you're saving huge amounts for a very low probability, high-cost event and potentially sacrificing enjoyment now for it. And honestly, for the absolute worst-case healthcare scenarios, most people's individual savings won't be enough anyway. You'd likely rely on government programs or, well, run out of time.
So instead of just hoarding cash for that possibility,
he suggests using insurance more effectively. Life insurance can protect your family if you die early, freeing you up mentally to spend more while alive.
And annuities for the other end, living too long.
Right. Income annuities can manage longevity, risk the fear of outliving savings. Insurance companies pool risk, which individuals can't do effectively. So trying to self-insure by just saving excessively is often inefficient.
This ties into his personal interest rate idea too, right?
Yes, definitely. Your personal interest rate is how much you value experiences now versus later. As you get older, that rate goes up. Because your time is more limited, your health might decline. The ability to fully enjoy an experience later diminishes. So postponing a great trip when you're 70 for a potential small financial gain makes less sense than taking the trip. Your time is literally more valuable for living.
Okay, so back to the kids. If we're spending more now, what about inheritance? He challenges waiting until death, doesn't he?
He really does. He points out the average person inherits money around age 60.
60, that seems late.
Right. By 60, your kids might be well into their careers, maybe past their peak spending needs for things like raising young kids or buying a first home. The money might have less impact then.
He told that story about Virginia Collin.
Yeah, that was poignant. She was really struggling financially after divorce. While her parents had plenty of money but held on to it. It shows the real human cost of delaying help.
And most wealth is transferred via inheritance, not gifts during life.
That's what the data suggests. And Perkins argues that a lot of inheritance isn't necessarily a deliberate, optimized plan. It's often just what's left over. He fingers two main culprits.
Yeah.
Autopilot, just doing what's always been done, saving and leaving it behind, and fear.
Fear of not having enough, like Virginia Collin's parents, maybe influenced by the Depression.
Exactly. Even with ample funds, that fear can make people cling to wealth instead of using it for greater impact, like helping your kids when they need it most.
So if waiting until 60 is too late, when is the best time to give significant financial help to kids?
Perkins suggests, based on his research and even a Twitter poll he did, the sweet spot is roughly between ages 26 and 35.
Why then?
Well, that's often when people are facing major life expenses, starting families, buying houses, but might not be at their peak earning years. They're also young and healthy enough to really benefit from and enjoy the support. It hits a point of maximum utility.
But he also stresses the legacy isn't just the money.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge point for him. The real legacy, he argues, is the shared experiences, the memories you create with your kid.
The time together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He asks you to think, what's that week at the cabin worth? That day trip? Investing in those things often provides a far bigger memory dividend for everyone involved than just a larger check later on.
It challenges the idea that working more hours to leave more money is always the best thing for your kids.
Right. You have to weigh the trade-offs. More money later or more shared time and experiences now.
And this logic applies to charity, too.
Yes. He contrasts someone like Sylvia Bloom, who left a huge fortune to charity after she died.
Impressive, but posthumous.
With the giving while living philosophy, championed by people like Chuck Feeney, who gave away almost his entire fortune during his lifetime.
Why is that better in Perkins' view?
Because you get to see the impact. You're involved. You experience the joy of giving. For Perkins, die with zero, applied to charity, means give it away while you're alive to direct it and enjoy the process.
Okay, so we're maximizing experiences, investing early, timing gifts, but it needs to be sustainable. That brings us to finding the right balance.
Crucial point. And Perkins shares a personal story here. After talking with Joe Farrell, he realized he'd become way too thrifty, almost miserly.
So he corrected course?
He did, but then he swung too far the other way, started spending excessively, potentially risking his future.
Ah, so the lesson was?
Find the right balance. Not too little, not too much. And crucially, that balance isn't static. It changes throughout your life.
He mentions the 50-30-20 rule.
Yeah, the basic budget guideline, 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings.
Useful starting point.
Maybe, but Perkins argues it's too simplistic for optimizing your whole life. A fixed ratio doesn't make sense when your income, health, and ability to enjoy experiences are changing dramatically over decades.
Why not?
Well, think about it. When you're young, your earn potential is likely high, but your current income might be lower. Maybe you should save less then and invest more in experiences or skills. When you're older, your ability to enjoy money might decline. So maybe you should be spending more again, not sticking to a rigid savings percentage.
He uses that deathbed scenario thought experiment again.
Right. Imagine yourself at the end. What will you value more? The experiences you had, the time with loved ones, or the number in your bank account? It puts the declining utility of money into sharp focus.
And declining health is a huge factor in that declining utility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He gives examples we can all relate to. Maybe you can't play tennis anymore, or skiing's too risky, or even just navigating a crowded bar like that soggy dollar bar story becomes difficult.
Your ability to extract joy from money spent on certain activities diminishes.
Exactly. Which leads him to stress maximizing your peak health for your age. Like Stephen Stern, who got fit later in life. Investing in health early pays massive dividends in lifetime fulfillment. Health is a huge multiplier.
He also talks about trading money for time, especially in those middle years.
Yes. When you're maybe earning well but super busy with work, family. Using money to buy back time, paying for laundry service, house cleaning, whatever, frees you up.
Frees you up for?
For experiences, for things you actually want to do rather than chores.
Again, it's about having more experiences now while health and energy are good. And this all loops back to that rising personal interest rate.
Precisely. As you age, you should value today's experience more highly than a potential future one, because your ability to enjoy it might decrease. Delaying gratification becomes less appealing.
He used that would I rather idea.
Yeah, like, would I rather have $1,000 now or $1,100 in a year? The financial answer is easy. But would I rather have an amazing trip now at 50 or maybe a slightly nicer trip at 70 when I might not enjoy it as much? The answer changes. The Las Vegas example highlights that too.
And the Die with Zero app is meant to help crunch these numbers.
Yeah, it tries to help you factor in your personal situation, health, time, money, to find that dynamic balance point for you over your lifetime. It's a tool to aid that complex thinking process.
Which brings us to another practical rule. Start to time bucket your life.
This is about thinking of life not as one long continuum, but as distinct periods or seasons.
Like chapters in a book.
Kind of. He uses this sweet example of his daughter loving the Heffalump movie intensely for a period and then just outgrowing it.
Ah, so certain joys or opportunities are specific to certain times.
Exactly. They have a window. Realizing that things don't last forever, he argues, can actually make you appreciate the present more.
Like that experiment with the college students?
Right. The ones asked to imagine they were moving away soon actually savored their current campus life more. Knowing something is finite increases its perceived value.
He applied this himself with that big 45th birthday party in St. Bart's.
Yeah, it was extravagant, cost a lot, but he justifies it by the incredible lasting memories it created. He contrasts it with his 50th, which wasn't as fulfilling, reinforcing the idea of seizing the right moments for big experiences.
Then he introduces the idea of your net worth peak. What's that?
It's the point in time when your net worth, your assets minus liabilities, will be the highest it ever gets.
Okay, so why does that matter?
Perkins says you should deliberately plan for when that peak occurs. The goal isn't just to reach the highest peak possible, but to time it so that you then start spending down your assets to maximize enjoyment over the rest of your life. Don't let it just happen by accident late in life.
But hang on, people will worry, if I plan to peak and then spend down, will I have enough to live on?
Absolutely crucial point. He stresses that this idea of planning your peak date is for people who have already crossed a certain survival threshold. You need to have enough saved to cover your basic needs securely first. If you're still building that foundation, saving is the priority.
Got it. So for those who have saved enough, why focus on a peak date instead of just a target dollar amount for retirement?
Because a dollar amount doesn't account for when you can best enjoy the money. Focusing on a date forces you to think about the timing of your spending relative to your health and ability to have experiences. He suggests for many people, the ideal time to start actively spending down savings, meaning your net worth has peaked, is likely somewhere between 45 and 60.
45 to 60? That seems much earlier than traditional retirement thinking.
It is. It's geared towards maximizing those prime, go-go, and early slow-go years, aiming to eventually hit zero.
He uses Andy Schwartz as an example again.
Right. Andy loves his work, isn't stopping soon. For him, the advice isn't necessarily quit your job, but start enjoying the wealth now. Spend more, give more now, maximize experiences alongside work, maybe cut back hours, gradually phased retirement.
The key is not getting endlessly seduced by just accumulating more money.
Exactly. Don't let the habit of earning overshadow the purpose of earning, which is living. He brings back the time buckets here, adding price tags. As you get wealthier, maybe some experiences like frequent live theater shift to later buckets, but not too late when you might not appreciate them as much.
Okay, final rule. Be bold, not foolish.
Love this one. It's about calculated risk-taking. He kicks off with Mark Cuban's early days.
Sleeping on floors, eating mustard sandwiches.
Yeah, taking huge entrepreneurial risks when he literally had nothing to lose. That boldness paid off massively.
But Perkins distinguishes that from, say, physical risks later in life.
Definitely. Jumping off a roof at 20 might lead to a sprain. At 60, it could be catastrophic. The consequences change. His point is, take your bigger career and life path risks earlier, when you have more time to recover and the potential upside is bigger relative to what you're risking. Don't save all the boldness for retirement when the go-go window is shorter.
He thinks we tend to overstate the downsides.
Often, yes. We magnify the downside, focusing on worst-case scenarios that are actually unlikely. He tells the story of Christine, stuck in a countertop sales job she hated.
At 25.
Right. Young, few commitments. The risk of quitting and trying something new seemed huge to her, but objectively, the downside was pretty small. She could likely find another job if needed. He encouraged her to take the leap.
He applies this to fears about moving or travel, too.
Yeah. He says quantify every single fear. Don't just feel vaguely anxious. If you're considering a higher-paying job in another city, but worry about losing touch with friends, actually calculate it. How much would flights cost? How much is the raise? Get concrete.
Like his own move from New York to Texas.
Exactly. He left a safe, comfortable brokerage job for a much riskier trading opportunity. Why? Huge potential upside. And the downside. He figured he could always go back to a similar job in New York if it failed. The risk was calculated, not foolish.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Die with Zero, the big message feels like it's about intentionality, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about consciously designing your life to maximize positive experiences. That requires thinking differently about money, yes, but also about time, health, and how they all interact across your lifespan.
It means questioning those default assumptions we have about working until 65, saving relentlessly, leaving everything to the kids only after we're gone.
Right. Perkins gives us a framework and even some tools like his app, which is free on the website, by the way, to help rethink all of that and make more deliberate choices aimed at fulfillment.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. What's one experience, big or small, that you've been putting off, telling yourself someday?
Yeah, what could you maybe do now or start planning for now that would give you a significant memory dividend down the road?
Maybe take one small step this week towards making that happen. Food for thought.
Definitely.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.